Hi, welcome to the Gear Garage. My name is Zach, and this is my show about whitewater paddling, more or less. And today I want to talk about safety kits and repair kits. And kind of what I have is my personal kit. This isn't really for commercial trips, this is just for my own personal use. And I personally have a really thorough kit of all kinds of items for stuff that I need for my own safety, but I'm also thinking of the team I'm going with. So mine's pretty thorough. I don't always bring everything in this bag. I bring this bag with me to put in. If it's easy to throw on a raft or in a cat boat or something, I bring it all. If I'm hiking in somewhere, I'll probably bring some of the key items. So if I'm kayaking or inflatable kayaking and I'm hiking, I might just bring a half of this. But if I have the room, it's really comprehensive. I like to bring the whole thing. So I'm going to open it up, kind of show you what I have in it. And first of all is my first aid kit. And this is a bag that I kind of had custom made for what I like. And this is pretty standard. We're not going to go through the whole first aid kit. But there's a few items that I just really like from just personal experience, things I've run into. The first one, I have a headlamp. And these really cool Petzl, they're small little headlamps inside of this little canister. And it's just a tiny thing. It's not going to, light up the trail like huge, but it's going to give you some light if you need to hike out at night or something like that, or you have to stay overnight. It's a really simple thing. It uses tiny batteries. And inside this little case, it lasts a long time. I also like the whistle. It has a whistle here, which is a nice feature. So it's something worth having, really easy to have with you in a first aid kit. I also really think it's nice to have a Mylar emergency blanket. If you have to stay the night out yourself, you're going to want this for warmth. And this little bit of blanket makes a huge difference for warmth. Or if somebody in your team is hypothermic, this could be the difference between them getting colder or keeping their temperature the same. So these are small, really easy to carry. And, I have other typical stuff in here like Advil, Band-Aids. I have these really cool Leatherman cutting shears that I like a lot. They're kind of geeky, but I like them. And I think one of the biggest things for a first aid kit is just having a first aid book. A lot of us have taken a lot of classes, but you don't remember every detail. And sometimes a certain sign or symptom might mean an evacuation or might not mean an evacuation. And having this just to double check your knowledge is really helpful. It's small, it's thin. Knowles makes a good, simple first aid book, and it's something I highly recommend. And another thing I keep in here is tear aid, and I have a lot of it in here. This stuff is pretty expensive. There's Type A and Type B. Type A is for most repairs. Type B is for PVC. So this is good stuff for boat repairs. I've repaired tents, your Gore-Tex jacket, your dry suit. This is really amazing and really simple repair material. And I keep quite a bit with me. This is a lot. And I store this a lot of different places, and I keep it in my first aid kit. So this is full of all kinds of other stuff, pretty typical things you have and things I like. But those are some of the big ones. So that's my first aid kit. And next in this bag, let's see what I have in here. I have my folding saw that I talked about on I think the second episode, and I love this thing. It's nice to have around with me. I have, let's see, a couple things here. This is just like fun toys I never use. These are chalks, or I think they're called chalks for climbing, and I don't use them anymore. I don't want to climb anymore, so I have them with me. And you could use them for an anchor on a river. I never have, but I could see them coming into use. Belay device. Again, you could belay somebody on a rappel. You could belay a boat. I've never used it, but I see the use, and it's small and easy. And this pulley right here, this is a pretty cool thing that again I've never used, but I might someday. It's a progress capture pulley, and so if you pull on your rope and let it go, it'll kind of capture the progress with some teeth in here. And this is kind of a specialized thing. I see some real value for it in rescue. Again, I've never used it, so it goes on my carabiner full of toys I might use someday but never have. And I usually just want to pull this out and set it aside if I'm on the scene of something. This is the stuff that I do use. I keep it on a pulley. I have two of these Petzl micro pulleys that I really like. They can handle ropes up to 11 millimeters, so it's a small pulley, pretty light, but can handle a big rope. And these are the Prussics, and this is the Hollow Block by Sterling, and it's worth checking out. I think these are pretty much the best thing going. They're sewn loops, so there's no knot in here, and the square feel to them is really nice for minding them. So again, this is like safety essentials for mechanical advantage or redirects, and you kind of need training before you start using this stuff. But this is kind of like the minimum gear, and I have it with me all the time. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Oh, I have a little repair kit. Yeah, and this is just like all kinds of tools. I do a lot of rowing, capboating, that kind of thing, and just need a bunch of tools to fix things. And so if you are a capboater or something you row rafts, there's a lot of mechanical parts. You need to bring with you every tool to fix anything, as well as spare parts. That's just mandatory. So I have the tools I need, plus a few extras for friends in case they don't have something. First is just channel locks. These can do a lot of different things. I use them all the time. I'm a pins and clips guy. I'm not sure if you know what that means, but for you, those of you that row, this is a pin, and I bring a spare pin with me, and the ball on top, which tends to fall off sometimes. So I have that pin. This is the tool. This is one of the tools for the Sawyer oars to pull them off. There's the smaller fish one I talked about a couple episodes, but this will pull the oar blades off. Sawyer makes that. It's also really good for opening the lids of Johnny Box groovers. So a nice backup there. Let's see. This is a 1/2 inch socket ready to go. All NRS frames and most frames overall use a 1/2 inch nuts, and so I just have this with me. Sometimes I even carry my life jacket because those things are coming loose or I need to adjust something. So I have this guy ready to go, and it's just a 1/2 inch deep socket on there. This is another bit of repair material my friend Vic gave me, and he tells me it's awesome. I've never used it, but I'm bringing it with me to use it some point someday. I don't typically run oar locks myself, but I do sometimes, and I bring this just in case somebody else breaks or loses an oar lock. It's nice to have a backup, and I've used it quite a few times actually. And I've seen these actually shear right here, so I just like having a backup. I've seen enough of those break. Yeah, these are channel locks, or vice grips, not channel locks. And it kind of does the same thing, but if you know what these are, it's a nice tool. The combo of these two can do quite a bit, having channel locks and vice grips together. So I like having both, especially with oar boats. Here's more of that tear aid that I had in my first aid kit. I have this with me a lot of different places. Again, it can repair rafts, dry suits, all kinds of stuff. This is a valve tool. If you need to pull off your valves on your rafts and replace them, or loosen up one of them to fix them, you'll need this to get the valves off, or the flow relief valve. And then finally this little multi-tool, and I like this a lot because it has Phillips and flathead. You can switch it out in one tool, but also this is the size that goes into a hose clamp to like turn the hose clamp without using a screwdriver. And so since I use pins and clips, I have a good number of hose clamps on all my oars. So this is what I use for the hose clamps. And you know, a lot of people just have hose clamps random places on their frame. So this is a nice tool to have. So it's a pretty complete repair kit right there. I don't typically bring the glue and all those things to do like raft repairs in this kit. That's a whole separate kit. So if I'm doing a multi-day with big rafts, I have a separate raft material, glue. But for most trips I do, personal trips, this is plenty, and tear aid can handle most of it. Again, if I need more, I just bring a separate full-on repair kit with all the stuff, all the trimmings. And then I really, for me, on rescue situations, if I'm pulling a unpinned boat off or setting up some sort of anchor system to do some sort of rescue, I really like having webbing. And my general thesis is you need at least 20 feet to do anything useful. You know, a lot of you have like 10, 12-foot lengths. My minimum is 20, and I have two 20s, and I have a 30. Sometimes to do a 3-point anchor, you need at least 30 feet. And the nice thing about having long lengths is if you need shorter lengths and you're in a rescue situation, just cut these in half. I mean, this 120 will make two 10s, this 130 makes two 15s. And I like having a lot of this stuff. I've run out of it before in certain situations, and so I bring a lot with me. So that's generally what I bring. I pack it all in this bag. This is a Watershed bag, which, you know, they're pretty high end. And the nice thing about Watershed bags is they're actually waterproof, where most dry bags aren't really that waterproof. And so I don't have to worry as much about drying this out every single time I paddle. I can leave it closed knowing that water didn't get in there. And one nice thing that Watershed has is are these liners. And I'd suggest, you know, getting the liner, because a lot of these are metal parts. You know, there's a saw in there, and this liner just sort of protects the bag. I've seen these bags rip from stuff inside of them, and so I like this nice padded bag, and you can just pull it out with everything if you need to, and it's just a nice carrier. Watershed again makes these. And again, here's one more thing in there that I didn't mention earlier. This is a part that I need for pins and clips. So those of you that run pins and clips, you know what this is. If you don't run pins and clips, you just don't care, and that's fine. And then the last thing in the bag I keep in, I try to always remember to have in these bags, are just a little 303 package, little single use. These on these bags, they get a little tough to close sometimes. So this, if you put 3 or 3 in them once every few months, they're easy to close. Or if you're on an expedition and you forget to, it's nice to have one at the bottom of the bag. So I like doing that. Beyond that, I also, there's no rope here. There's no safety rope. So I'm sort of depending, this is all depending on me having a really good throw bag. And, if I'm capboating or kayaking, I'm not worried about having a big time safety line. If I'm rafting and I'm worried about rafts or doing a big time rescue, I'll bring a completely separate static line and I'll put it in maybe a bigger bag. But this one depends on the throw bag as a safety line. So having a good throw bag is really important for that, or a couple good throw bags. So that's my kit. The one last thing, just a couple other items that I want to talk about on the safety topic are having an emergency communication device. And nowadays Garmin makes these things, they're like, I think they're a few $100, which is a lot of money. They cost $15 a month or something like that to keep them activated. But man, the peace of mind you have when you have this with you. If somebody breaks a femur in the middle of nowhere, or has a major medical thing you need to get out, I mean, this has an SOS button where they'll bring the troops in right away, which could save a life. But also, if you just get caught out overnight, you don't make your time and you guys are going to camp out overnight for whatever reason, and you want to tell your friends or your wife or anybody at home, hey, we're fine, we're camping out, we made a mistake, but everybody's healthy. Boy, the peace of mind for your friends having this is huge. So I'd highly recommend getting one of these. The Garmin has a GPS map thing, but it's kind of terrible. So I would mainly just use these for the emergency communication. They can text, you can send texts out with these. I'm a big fan of iPhones too. I bring an iPhone in a life-proof case. If there's coverage, I'm covered. I don't have to worry about that thing. And the nice thing is the iPhones have a really good GPS software, like Gaia GPS, that's better, way better than these things. So, if I have my iPhone, I'll use this for the GPS and the maps, and I'll use this just simply as a communication device. And I think we have a responsibility. It's 2017. These things aren't that expensive. We have $5,000 rafts, for example, or $1,000 kayaks. I think the peace of mind we give to our family and friends by having this, as well as, just like the potential safety they bring, this is an item we should maybe all think about having. So I leave this in my truck and charge it, and then when I go on trips where I think I might need it, I just throw it here in the bag. A couple other things. First of all, mission patches. I think mission patches are important, and I feel like we should have more patches in our lives. And so if you have patches to give your friends for your mission, good on you. Bring those with you and hand them out. People love patches. Or medals. If you have medals, those are pretty cool too. And then maps, again with GPSs, you don't necessarily need maps as much, but they're fun to look at. They're open them up and talk about your day. Or if your battery dies, it's just nice to have a map. So, I'd highly recommend getting maps for your area. Support whoever makes maps. It's probably a dying breed out there. People are doing that, and they're just fun to have. So that's my kit. Again, my kit is based on partially what is generally accepted rescue and safety and first aid equipment, but also my own experiences. There's things I bring just because I haven't had them in the past, and I really wish I'd had them. Or I've heard a story that made a lot of sense to me, and that's why I bring a certain amount of things that I do. And your kit might be different. This is just some ideas and some things to consider. So if you have questions about whether or not something's a good idea, I'd love to answer it. Just ask me a question down in the comments below. If you have some other thing, one thing I didn't mention was food, right? Like maybe you have emergency food in there and you think it's a good idea, or there's something that you think is particularly important, a water filtration system, or I didn't mention a lighter, but I have a lighter in my first aid kit. Things like that where you think it's a good addition for everybody to know. Please just add in the comments below, add to the discussion. I don't think there's a perfectly right answer for safety equipment, and it's very situation dependent. Again, there's kayaking in your backyard versus like a 10-day expedition in the wilderness. That's a completely different set of equipment. But this is what I have. This has been a fun topic for me, and thanks for joining. See you on the next one.